a question for the ladies on the panel, right? Because I hear both, and I understand that her mother and her grandmother went through some things that would influence her decisions as to how Bo was raised.
Hmm.
So I have a question to the women. Let's say for the sake of argument, I grant the argument that a lot of women, there were a lot of women that were put in very vulnerable situations that were taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Do you believe that given time, men would have been able, if y'all came to men and told us that this was an issue that y'all were having, that men wouldn't have picked up the totem and tried to solve it?
I would say, honestly, when I was growing up, the men that I had around me, no.
Hmm.
I'm just
Because,
saying, not just men around you, but society at large. Do you think that we would have picked up the
well,
totem and found a way to try to solve that issue?
Sweeney, let me say this. If I felt that the men that I had closest to me in my life who loved me and were supposed to support me and care for me wouldn't do it, then why would I look outside of that?
Hmm.
Because if the people that's closest to me aren't as active, or I don't feel I can turn to them, why would I turn to a stranger? Why
So,
would I think that you would
Hmm.
care?
I agree.
if I could ask for a clarification, so when you say the man closest to you, do you mean the man that you were romantically involved with,
No, I
or
mean
like or
family.
like if your father, like if some dude put his hands on you and you went and you told your father that this man put his hands on you, your father would tell you that's your problem?
I would not that he would say that's my problem. In my specific situation, my father was in the military, so I grew up without my father around. He was in active duty.
Hmm.
So even though I could call him, he was literally countries away. So it's nothing that he could actively do. There were things that I went through as a kid that my father could only talk to me about on the phone. Are you okay? Did that help? It was always the women in my family that were the closest. And for the men that were there, right, that were close, there was no action taken. In my experience, there had always been women that did things.
So what do you
Yeah.
mean? So the men that you said that were like there was no action taken, like so are we talking like brothers, uncles,
Exactly.
things like that? So
Hmm.
what what action did you want them to take in that moment?
Honestly, any action. So let just an example, and I'm not going to use my personal life, right? But just an example. Let's say a girl is assaulted, right? You're assaulted somewhere, and you go and tell your family members, and the women jump up and they're like, "Who did it? Where is it? Let's call the police. Let's do this." There's action, and the man is just like letting the women lead the show. They
Mm.
kind of just sit back. They don't take that stance. They don't take that action, right? That's an
Yeah.
experience that I had growing up. Either they weren't around or they didn't take any action, and only the women took action in certain situations. So that's who I learned to lean on
Hmm.
growing up, is the women in my family. I know that they'll do something about the things that I'm going through, whether it's just giving advice or actually stepping up and doing something. The man didn't do it or couldn't do it.
So and I'm okay, because
That's just my, I don't know for everyone else.
in my experience, I know that, and this specific, and I ain't got the greatest men in my family, right? We are a spectrum. You know what I mean? Some of us are great. Some of us, I would say that when it came to the women in our lives, if sister came home and told you that some dude put his hands on her, the whole family stuff. I had an auntie that used to come to the men every single time she got into it, neighbors and everything, and the whole family would show up for it. But I would say, and I said this on a few panels ago, is that oftentimes our advice to y'all doesn't really matter. Because I would argue, I think a lot of men give you advice. We tell you, hey, you need to leave that guy. I don't think you should be with him anymore, but it kind of falls on deaf ears. So the only action that we can take that will matter to a lot of women would be to be physical with the guy that she has an issue with. And considering the fact that vigilante justice is not something that you can get away with in this country, that you can likely go to jail or lose your life over, a lot of men's hands are tied because we don't, if you go to your brother and you tell him, hey, this guy is doing something to me, and he tells you, hey, look, I will leave that guy alone. Stop dealing with him. Don't, you know what I mean? F that dude. And you say, well, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do anyway, then you tie his hands, because the next thing that the only thing he can do after that, when the next time you come to him, is he gonna have to go and show dude what. And then who's there to protect him and his people when shit hit the fan? Or he will have to tell you, because he knows this, hey, look, you're on your own because I tried to give you the advice to leave him alone. I don't want to have to go over there and put my hands on this dude because I don't want to lose my life. So I will hope that you would leave him alone and walk away from this guy. And then also and I would say this, that men have put a system in place that y'all can take actionable steps to get these type of men out of your life. Call the police. You can literally call the police, right now, and put that man in jail. But if you feel like he calls you on the phone and says, baby, please, please, please get me out of here, and I'm your brother, and you say he can't stay in there all night, so you go and you bail that man out, what do you want me to do as your brother in that instance? You want to come back to me and say, hey, look, he put his hands on me again, so then I got to go. So then when I go and put hands on him, you didn't already bail him out. Now you don't even have the money to bail me out. That's like, just to kind of give you the idea of how men see these things. We want to be there. We will love to go to bat for you. But one, vigilante justice is looked down upon in this country. And two, there's no level of protection for men that would do that for y'all. So the only thing we can do is tell you, leave that man alone. But oftentimes, and I'm sure M. White can tell you how many times he done told the women in his life to leave certain guys alone that he recognized wasn't no good. I done told several friends in my life to leave.
Sweeney, would you be surprised if these particular women would actually champion that we do sit in jail without bail and actually do the time as part of the sacrifice that they feel is necessary for their protection? What if I told you there's a group of women that understand that, yeah, there is no protection for you, but do it anyways?
That would be diabolical.
It'd be diabolical, right? But that's not how these group of women see it. They see it as what's the term for that? Noble or some shit like that. But that's what they want. Can they get it? Maybe some guys out there that will do it. But I don't think the women that are raising these men, and the majority of these households that are single parents, are raising men to be that noble or willing to lay his life on the line or his freedom on the line for that. So it's really like, how can you even expect it? Or you're not even raising men to be protective like that when you have authority as a parent over their upbringing. But I didn't mean to derail it, but I was just throwing that in there. Maybe in fact, these women do want us to sacrifice in a way to where, yeah, we're going to sit it down. That's just part of it. And they'll write us letters or some shit, and that's just part of the game.
And I would say that I don't deny your experience, Ty, because I would say this, there's another layer to it, that women oftentimes feel safer jumping in the man's face than men do. So for example,